Climate Wisdom from COP30 Belém.
Welcome to our Climate Wisdom studio live from COP30 in Belém in Brazil. We bring together experts from science, politics and spirituality to explore new solutions for the unfolding climate disaster. Myself, I'm Golo Pilz, and I will be today's moderator. The climate conference is always like a game of three-dimensional chess, and the world's government juggle priorities and haggle over commitments. Throwing an extra level of complexity into the mix are the divisions within the Brazilian government, where President Lula's scope for action is limited by a powerful petrochemical and agribusiness lobby. Today is the last day of this climate conference, and it seems the fossil fuel phase-out plan, pushed by the Brazilian presidency, has hit a stern resistance from countries but also from lobby groups. The careful orchestrated timetable to find last-minute agreements has been thrown into further disarray when on Thursday afternoon a fire broke out in the pavilion area of the conference. Isn't it interesting? The world is on fire, and there's a fire at our climate conference also. So most likely the conference will go into extra time, and we will come to know the result only by the end of the weekend. Also, our climate studio is coming to an end. We have done 24 sessions and hope that you all got more insights and, most important, inspirations for inner transformation. The next climate conference will be in Antalya in Turkey in November 2026. And we hope to be there and continue our Climate Wisdom studio. I'm glad to have two experts with me tonight and hope they will share their insights about the conference. Today's topic is integrating ethics, science and innovation for climate resilience. Very interesting topic. With us is Tati Trevisan. You are an academic and sustainable leader dedicated to advancing both inner and outer transformation. You are also the CEO of Inspiring Minds Consulting, and you currently serve as an industry innovation business development manager at the University of New South Wales in Australia. You also work with the Yoga Foundation and the Australia Hub for the Inner Development Goals. Welcome, Tatiana.
Thank you, Golo.
With us also we have Sister Jayanti. You are the additional administrative head of the Brahma Kumaris and globally known spiritual leader. The Brahma Kumaris operates 8,500 centers worldwide and is accredited to the United Nations since 2009, to the UNFCCC since 2009. Sister Jayanti has been to almost all COPs since 2009, and you are also the head of the Brahma Kumaris delegation at this club conference. Welcome, Sister Jayanti.
Thank you.
Tatiana, this brings me to our first question. Please share your current focus. You have many tiles in Australia, many shoes you're wearing. So what you're focusing right now in Australia, and actually what brings you to this climate conference?
Yeah, it was actually a gift to be sent to Australia, to Brazil for the climate change conference. And it's important to tell a bit about my background. So I moved to Australia 9 years ago.
You are Brazilian?
I'm Brazilian.
Okay.
And before that, I was working in Brazil for over 15 years with sustainability. And I've worked for the government, I've worked for non-for-profit, and I've worked for business, large business such as Walmart, being the head of sustainability. And my main thing is being a connector and developing partnerships to create societal impact. I can say that my mom says that I was born a warrior for justice, so it's really what drives me. I started working at University of New South Wales not long ago, 5 months ago, and they saw my passion, and the conference was happening in Brazil. And then they said, okay, you're heading the delegation. So for me, it was a gift to be able to come to my country to discuss the climate. We're not even talking about crisis anymore. We are talking about emergency, right? And University of New South Wales is based in Sydney, in Australia, and it's one of the world leading universities in research on climate change. And my main role here was really to reconnect with my network. We have a very strong strategy, which is called Progress for All, and it has very strong pillars on equity and social justice and societal impact. So the main goal was really for me to reconnect with my network, understand what are the priorities for Brazil to make sure that the Amazon is preserved, and develop partnerships with Brazil to make sure that we are translating research into impact.
So you must have been slightly disappointed that the next climate conference is not coming to Australia.
Very disappointed, I gotta say. And I was just sharing that before. I think I am for sure, like my ego is disappointed that it's not coming to Australia. But what makes me really sad is the message, because the importance of going to Australia and Pacific was to really deep listen to the voices of the Pacific. And it was really time to do that. And so I think that's why I'm most frustrated about, as the message for fossil fuels hasn't been good today. This message is also not good.
Not so good, yeah. Yeah. All right. It is as it is. There was a lot of, I would say, leg pulling behind the scenes where the next COP will go, and the outcome is now as it is.
Yes.
Sister Jayanti, you have been more than 15 COPs. I think 2009 in Copenhagen was the first climate conference. And since then, the climate crisis has manifested itself much more clearer and on a really massive global scale. We know what we have to do intellectually. We understand the science is very clear, but somehow we're unable to move in the right direction. Is humanity ready for the big jump and to acknowledge the role of consciousness, of our actions, of our inner world creates the outer world? Are we ready now? Is the crisis big enough that humans really can make that big jump? What do you think?
Well, I know for a fact that through scientific research, what they find is that if 20% of the population reach a certain consensus, then the rest of the world is able to accept it. So I think that we can definitely hope that 20% of the world's population are ready for change, are ready to create a different consciousness. Maybe we're just a few steps away from that. But generally speaking, here at this conference, again, and why there are disappointments in so many different areas is because, like you mentioned, that we know the science, we know what's going on, we also know how to be able to reverse it. Yet we don't have either the moral courage to make that stand, or perhaps we lack the inner power to be able to make that shift. And as a result, then we are seeing the conditions as they are today. But my hope is that just as, sometimes you understand not through knowledge, but you understand through practical experience. And so what we've seen happen in terms for the extreme climate situations worldwide, you name it, and there's been situations, events that are not very pleasant happening. So maybe the pain of that is going to be something that motivates people to start looking in a different direction. And they'll look inwards, and what they'll find is that, yes, it's possible to make a change away from consumerism and materialism to a consciousness of simplicity. Maybe they'll make that shift that will change them. Instead of relying on fossil fuels, they'll understand that there are renewable energies that can provide us with the facilities that we require. You see, when people think about giving up their comfort, it's not so easy to say, yes, I'm willing to do that. But if I'm pushed to the edge, then I'll say, yeah, show me what is the other way out. And I think they'll then realize that the shift in consciousness can bring about that change that we want.
We talk a lot about tipping points in climate, so maybe there's also social tipping points or tipping point in spirituality, which we are sort of accessing right now. Because I think at this climate conference, they really tried to appeal to the consciousness or to the moral ethical compass of people and say, hey, if we don't do anything, the future will be very catastrophic, So they're really trying to appeal to the consciousness. Let's see. Conference is yet not over. What will be the final day? Thanks very much. Tatiana, having participated in previous COPs also, what is the message you hope to convey to international negotiators here in Belém? I mean, conference is almost over, but still, about the power of grassroots and value-based action. And also, I would like to know, are you satisfied with the outcome of this climate conference?
There are many things that make me really proud of what we've done. Multidão. I didn't come with the shirt by coincidence. So I don't know how much you know about Multidão, but it is an indigenous word.
Coming together
Exactly.
and jointly resolve a problem.
Yeah, and one of the main things about Multidão is not the outcome, but it's what happens in the process, right? All the encounters and the relationships. And I think what Brazil has done in terms of bringing diversity to the dialogue, I hadn't seen that in COPs before. At least the last ones were far from that. So I'm very happy with the way Brazil was able to bring all different actors of society together. I was at the march. I was able to empathize with many stories of indigenous people. And when we are talking about experience, I think Lula was very strong and had the courage to say we are doing it in Belém, because I know that you all need to experience what it is to live in the Amazon and what it is to live outside offices with air conditioning and with heat.
Today we went by boat to the island. And we went to the big trees inside the Amazon, and we really got a first-hand experience.
And that's it. We are talking about experience, because usually people who are making decisions, they don't get out of the office. They don't see the problem. They don't see how hard it is to do the bioeconomy that everyone's talking about, right? So I think that's one of the outcomes that is very grassroots, and I'm very proud of, to be honest. And I think it was a good one. The global ethical stocktake. So that's one of the messages that I think the global ethical stocktake dialogues. I joined the one in Oceania. We also did a self-organized one in partnership with the Ministry of Environment. And they gave voices and they deep listened to all different sectors and the diversity of actors in society. And I think that's one of the things that we must carry to the next COPs, the global ethical stocktake. And the Multidão methodology, I would say. So I think that's one of the things. The other one that I would say is the importance of nature-based solutions that we're all talking about, and respecting the rights of indigenous people. So I brought some data talking about science tipping points. You probably talked about it, but in the previous interviews. But we say that the tipping point for Amazon not becoming a desert, Sahara, is that it has to be preserved 80%. Some scientists say 70%, but we just reached 18% of deforestation. So we're very close to the tipping point of the Amazon becoming a desert, and that will impact all other different countries. It's not only Brazil, right? And there is, if you look at the maps of Australia and at Brazil, the whole center of Australia is a desert, and Brazil only has all the forests in the Amazon because of the mountains, right? On the back, because the rain comes back. So if it becomes a desert, all the water that has been going to all different countries is going to be gone. So there's only 3% of the global climate financing goes to nature-based solutions right now. So we definitely need to increase the amount of financing that is going to nature-based solutions. And some also very interesting data is that indigenous peoples make less than 6% of the global population, but they safeguard 80% of the planet's remaining biodiversity. So it's scientifically proved that lands managed by indigenous people, they actually decrease deforestation rates and they preserve biodiversity. Yes. So I would say the securing indigenous lands and a fossil-free future. We were talking about that, and just closing my speech, I heard someone saying that we will never dry the floor if we don't close the tap. So we got to close this step and stop burning fossil fuels.
That's a nice analogy. Thanks for sharing all these numbers. And indeed, there's a lot of potential in nature. And nature actually shows us how we can resolve the crisis, And it's not necessarily always high tech, and not always the people who are sitting at the office table. It's the people living in the forest, the people on the countryside, the farmers. And they can do really, their actions can have a lot of impact. Thanks very much for sharing. Sister Jayanti, maybe the most powerful force in the universe is divine love. And it is said love can heal, love can change, love can create wonders. And it seems this world, and especially this COP, they need some extra strong dose of wonders and love. And can you give some inspiration what's needed to experience love and to share the love? Please invite us.
The human spirit is the being that experiences love. Yes, love has an impact on the whole of my physiology, but it actually exists as part of the natural makeup, the faculty of the soul itself. And so when we talk about love, it's not this machine that's beating away and pumping the blood, but it's actually the soul that's located here in the center of the forehead. And so when I get to know myself and I start following values in my life, then I can start loving myself. And scriptures tell us that when you love yourself, then you can love your neighbors as you can love yourself. But if I don't even love myself, how am I going to love my neighbor? And so I need to go on this inner journey to come to that experience of the soul and my original natural quality of love. But I also need to recharge, because here I am trying to share compassion and love with others. So there's an energy that's flowing out. But at some point, I'm going to get depleted. And I'm going to say, well, what about me? Who's going to give me love? But if I look for a human being, then there's going to be a problem. Because the other human being is also saying, I need love. And so two empty vessels come together. And there's just going to be friction, there's a noise, there isn't going to be cooperation. And so what I have to do is connect with the divine. Each day, early in the morning, as early as possible, spend a little while just going inside the inner being and connecting with the supreme being, the source of light, of love, of purity, of peace. And when I recharge my own inner battery, then I have enough that's going to last me through the day. And in any one of my connections, I'm never going to be the one who's asking for something, love or anything else, but I'll just feel that I'm an instrument and it's coming from above and is reaching out. So that pure altruistic love, unconditional love that we get from the ocean, from the divine, is something that's accessible for everyone. And if we make that contact and experience that, then each one of us becomes a beacon of light, a beacon of love, able to give.
Wonderful. And what I love, I take care. Wonderful. So let's send some love to the COP and create some wonders. And it said God's love is the most magician transformative power in the world. Tatiana, this brings me to my last question. And I looked a little bit up what you have done. And you've done a PhD titled, it's a bit complicated, Elevating Consciousness in Business Leaders. And the subtitle was Connecting Personal Development to Positive Impact to positive impact. Connecting personal development to positive impact. Elevating consciousness in business leaders. From such a perspective, what is the most significant internal barrier preventing world leaders or business leaders from reaching more ambitious climate agreement? What stops them? What has to be done? Do we have to teach them meditation, or what should we do?
I first just need to share that the whole idea of my PhD came from a speech I heard from you, Sister Jayanti, at COP21 in Paris. I went to your event, and it was the first time I heard someone saying that to achieve sustainable development, we had to integrate spirituality in the agenda. And for me, that made total sense. And I really committed to try to understand how we could integrate that in business and what I was already doing. So I moved to Australia and started studying and did my PhD. And so it's an honor to be here today. I would say, and I said that before, but so what I found a bit in my research, and we already talked about it, is how important these lived experience are to change and shift consciousness and to bring a different way of seeing different perspectives and having a different mindset. But the other thing that I also found is how important it is not only the experience in the external environment, but also to create an internal environment that allows the change to happen, because internal change also take time. And that's where all the tools and practices like meditation and spirituality and personal growth, they come in as so important. So I interviewed many leaders that commit their self and all the resources and their organization's resources to do good. And what I would say is that we really need to get these decision makers out of their office, out of their conditioning. And what happened with the German chancellor is a great example of that. People don't like to experience discomfort, but that's what they need to do. They need to understand what's going to happen with all of us, with our kids, right? But I'm also a big believer that universities, schools, and leadership programs, they need to teach tools of self-development, meditation. They need to help people to have, and some people say develop their spiritual intelligence, but I would say really bring spirituality to the way we've been taught, because otherwise people are not going to be able to make the shift and see things from a different perspective and connect to the hearts, right? Because that's the big thing. Experience is what really helps you to connect to the heart, and we don't need more words. What we need is people to be driven by their hearts.
That's wonderful. People driven by their hearts and bring the business leaders out of their office. I like it.
And negotiators.
Negotiators, yeah. Actually, interestingly, yesterday we saw one friend came, his name is Vincente, and he worked with the Science Pavilion, and he brought this 3D goggles, and he showed us the film on the Amazon, and it's an immersive experience. So you take these goggles on, and you hear the headphones, and you can turn 360 degrees around, and you're inside the Amazon, you know. And it was a film of what impact mining has on the Amazon. So you saw this beautiful Amazon with the birds right in front of you. Mm-hmm. You could take your hand and almost touch it, and you could turn around, and you were in the middle of the Amazon jungle. And interestingly, that touched my heart, that experience, you know. So I could understand how important it is that we touch the heart, and people not only understand intellectually by numbers behind the office desk through the computer, but also by the heart, what is actually going on and what's happening to people, what climate change actually means. Thanks very much for sharing, and such great inspirations. And time is coming to an end, and hence I would like, Sister Jayanti, would like to ask you to conduct a short meditation and bring science, ethics, innovation back, and bring the heart into the equation, and God's love, and make a nice mix and send good energy to the COP. They find a good solution.
Can I visualize a beautiful big tree and the sunlight coming through the leaves and the peace that surrounds everyone in the presence of this amazing creation of nature? And as I come closer, I see that the tree is actually struggling for water, struggling for air, and isn't able to manage doing all the things they should be doing. I pause and ask myself, what must I do? I can help others, including trees and nature, only when I've learned to first help myself. The light of the divine touches the soul, and I realize that this divine light can reach everything and everyone and remove all darkness so that the day may begin. I also realize that it's going to be the collective meditation of all of us together that's going to bring about shift. I hold this vision of a world of light, and I come back to the awareness of the moment here and now. Om Shanti.
Thanks very much, Sister Jayanti. Thanks very much, Tatiana, for sharing your insights, what's happened in the COP, and how love and compassion and ethics can bring a change. Thanks also to our patrons, our sponsors, and to all the volunteers in front and behind the camera and worldwide which make this studio possible. You can watch all our sessions on YouTube. Please visit our webpage, echo.brahmakumaris.org/live. You will find all informations there. Last not least, thanks very much to you, our audience, and we all hope you have been inspired. You understand the seriousness of climate change more in detail, but you're also being inspired for inner transformation. Goodbye from this COP30 in Belém. Tomorrow there will be 2 more sessions from our Climate Wisdom studio, and then that's it. Conference is coming to an end, and hope to see you in Turkey, in Antalya. Goodbye and good night from Brazil.